The letter arrived 3 days after they buried Thomas beneath the cottonwood. Abraham Callahan held it with trembling fingers, the paper still warm from the riders' saddlebags, ink smeared from rain that had fallen 2 counties over. "She'll come before the first snow. Don't turn her away. Thomas." Abraham read it twice, then crumpled it and threw it into the cold hearth. His brother's final joke, perhaps. Thomas had always been clever with words, even when fever took his strength and left him gasping in the narrow bed by the window. The knock came at dusk. Abraham opened the door to find a woman taller than any he'd seen, her shoulders broad as a lumberjack's, dark hair braided tight against her skull. She wore men's clothes, denim pants, a wool shirt, boots caked with mud from hard travel. A canvas bag hung across her shoulder, and her pale blue eyes held the kind of steady calm that came from facing trouble and winning. "I'm Clara Blackwood," she said, voice low and sure. "Your brother sent for me." Abraham stared. "Thomas is dead." "I know. That's why I'm here." She stepped past him into the cabin without invitation, her head nearly brushing the low beams. The space felt suddenly smaller, cramped. She set her bag by the door and looked around, at the dirty dishes stacked in the basin, the unmade bed, the clothes scattered across the floor. "When did you last eat?" she asked. "I don't see how that's..." "When?" Abraham ran a hand through his hair. "Yesterday. Maybe the day before." Clara nodded and walked to the stove. She opened the firebox, checked for wood, then began building a fire with quick, efficient movements. "Your brother wrote to me 6 months ago. Said he was dying. Said you'd need someone to help with the ranch come winter." "I don't need help." She glanced at him over her shoulder. "The dishes say different. So does the smell in here. When did you last wash?" Heat crept up Abraham's neck. "I've been grieving." Grief don't excuse living like a pig. The words stung because they were true. He'd let everything slide since Thomas took to bed. The animals got fed and watered, but barely. The house had become a cave where he hid from the world, from responsibility, from the weight of being alone. Clara found a can of beans and some hardtack, got soup started while Abraham watched from the doorway. She moved like someone who'd cooked in 100 different kitchens, hands sure, no wasted motion. "I don't have money to pay you," he said. "Didn't ask for money." "Then what do you want?" She turned to face him, ladle in hand. "A place to stay through winter. Come spring we'll see." They ate in silence. The soup was thin but hot, the first real meal Abraham had tasted in days. Clara sat across from him, her big hands wrapped around her bowl, eyes scanning the room like she was taking inventory. "Your brother said you were a good man," she said finally. Abraham gave a bitter laugh. "Thomas said a lot of things. He said you stayed when he got sick. Most men would have put him in a home somewhere, gone off to find their own lives. He was my brother." "Exactly." She finished her soup and set the bowl down. "He also said you were stubborn as a mule and twice as ornery." Despite himself, Abraham smiled. "That sounds like Thomas." That night, Clara unrolled a bedroll by the fire. Abraham lay in his narrow cot, listening to the sound of her breathing. It had been so long since another person shared this space. Even when Thomas was alive, the silence had grown thick toward the end, filled with things neither of them knew how to say. Clara didn't snore, but her presence filled the room. Abraham found it oddly comforting, like having a guard dog he didn't know he needed. Morning came gray and cold. Abraham woke to the sound of splitting wood and the smell of coffee. Through the window, he watched Clara working the axe with smooth, powerful strokes. She'd already stacked a pile twice the size of what he usually managed in a day. He dressed and went outside. "You don't have to do that." "Wood won't split itself," she said, not pausing. "Your pile's near empty. Won't last a week." Abraham looked at the meager stack by the door. He'd been putting off the chore for days, telling himself he'd get to it tomorrow, then the day after that. "I can handle my own wood." Clara stopped and leaned on the axe handle. "Can you? Because from where I stand, you've been handling things poorly." The words should have made him angry, but he was too tired to argue. Too tired and too honest with himself to deny what was obvious. They worked together that morning. Clara took the heavy logs, splitting them clean with powerful swings. Abraham handled the smaller pieces, stacking them in neat rows against the cabin wall. By noon, they had enough wood to last a month. Over dinner, Clara asked about the ranch. How many head of cattle, what condition the fences were in, when he'd last checked the water rights. Abraham answered as best he could, but it became clear how much he'd neglected. Your brother was worried, Clara said. Wrote that you'd let things slide even before he took sick. I had other things on my mind. Like what? Abraham pushed food around his plate. Like watching my brother die by inches. Like wondering what I was going to do after. Clara's expression softened slightly. He lasted longer than the doctors said he would. That's on account of you. The compliment caught him off guard. Abraham felt his throat tighten. Wasn't enough. Never is. But you did what you could. That evening, they sat by the fire. Clara pulled out a small leather journal and began writing in it with a stub of pencil. Her handwriting was neat, precise. What's that? Abraham asked. Account of the day. Chores done, supplies needed, weather. She looked up. Your brother asked me to keep track. Said you weren't much for writing things down. Abraham watched her work. There was something peaceful about the scratch of pencil on paper, the way she recorded each small detail as if it mattered. Why'd you come? He asked finally. Clara paused in her writing. Your brother offered me something I'd never had. What? A home. The simple honesty of it silenced him. Abraham stared into the fire, thinking about how many doors had probably closed in her face. A woman of her size and manner wouldn't fit easily into most people's idea of proper. Where are you from? Colorado territory. My pa ran cattle up near Denver until the winter of '69 took most of the herd. After he died, I worked ranches wherever they'd have me. And before that? Clara closed the journal. Before that's not your business. Abraham nodded. Everyone had parts of their past they preferred to keep buried. The days settled into a rhythm. Clara rose before dawn, started the fire, got coffee going. Abraham would find her already at work when he stumbled outside, mending fence, mucking stalls, doing any of a dozen tasks he'd let slide. She didn't talk much, but she was steady. When the wind howled and rain lashed the windows, she stayed calm. When a coyote got into the chicken coop one night, she tracked it down and shot it clean before Abraham even got his boots on. After 2 weeks, Abraham realized he'd stopped feeling sorry for himself. Hard to wallow in grief when someone was bustling around, fixing things, making the place look like a working ranch again. One evening as they sat eating dinner, Clara said, "Your brother left something for you." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small wooden box. Abraham recognized it immediately. Thomas had carried it since they were boys, claimed it held his most valuable possessions. He said to give it to you after you stopped being angry at him. I'm not angry at Thomas. Clara raised an eyebrow. You threw his medicine bottles in the creek. Burned his clothes. Haven't spoken his name except when forced to. Abraham took the box with reluctant hands. Inside was Thomas's watch, a $20 gold piece, and a folded letter. Abraham opened it and read silently. Brother, if Clara's reading this to you, it means you're too stubborn to read it yourself. I know you're mad at me for dying and I don't blame you. But don't be mad at her. She's got more backbone than both of us put together, and she understands what it means to be alone. Give her a chance. Give yourself one too. The ranch needs both of you. Thomas. Abraham folded the letter carefully. He always was smarter than me. Smart enough to know what you needed. That night, Abraham didn't toss and turn like he had for weeks. For the first time since Thomas died, the silence in the cabin felt peaceful instead of empty. But peace never lasted long on the frontier. The trouble started with missing cattle. Abraham noticed it first when he rode the north pasture and came up 3 head short. Then Clara found fence wire cut clean, not broken by weather or animals. Someone's taking your stock, she said, crouched beside the severed wire. Abraham dismounted and examined the cut. Rustlers? Maybe. Or someone with a grudge. That evening, a rider came hard up the trail. Abraham stepped onto the porch, Clara beside him, both armed. The man who dismounted was Sheriff Dutch Keller, gray-bearded and tired-looking. We need to talk, Keller said, not bothering with pleasantries. What about? Your cattle. Found 3 of them in Sam Garrett's herd this morning. Abraham's blood went cold. Sam Garrett owned the biggest spread in the county, and he'd been trying to buy out smaller ranchers for years. That's impossible. Got your brand, clear as day. Garrett says he bought them fair and square. Got a bill of sale to prove it. A forged bill of sale, Abraham said. Keller shrugged. That's for a judge to decide. Point is, Garrett's claiming you sold him cattle to pay debts, then tried to steal them back when you changed your mind. What debts? Says your brother owed him money from a poker game. $500. Abraham felt the ground shift under his feet. Thomas had been gambling again, despite promises he'd stopped. And if he'd lost that much to Garrett? We never sold him anything, Abraham said. You got papers to prove ownership? Abraham hesitated. He had bills of sale for some of the herd, but not all. Thomas had handled most of the paperwork, and his records were scattered, incomplete. I'll need to look through my brother's things. You do that. But Garrett's talking about pressing charges if this ain't settled soon. After Keller left, Abraham sat heavily at the kitchen table. Clara poured him coffee with whiskey in it. Your brother gamble often? She asked. Used to. Thought he'd quit. Desperate men make poor choices. Abraham looked up at her. You think he really owed Garrett that money? Clara was quiet for a long time. I think Garrett's the kind of man who'd forge a debt to steal a ranch. That night, they went through Thomas's papers by lamplight. Bills of sale, receipts, correspondence, everything scattered in a wooden crate under the bed. Most of it was legitimate, but there were gaps. Cattle unaccounted for, expenses that didn't make sense. Here, Clara said, holding up a letter. From the bank in town. Abraham read it twice. Thomas had taken out a loan 6 months before he died. $300 against the ranch. He never told me, Abraham said. Probably didn't want to worry you. But why would he need the money? Clara pointed to another paper, a receipt from a doctor in the territorial capital. Treatment for his condition. Medicine. Surgery he never had. Abraham felt sick. Thomas had mortgaged the ranch trying to save himself, and now Garrett was circling like a vulture. Over the next few days, more cattle went missing. Abraham and Clara took turns watching the herd, but whoever was taking the stock knew the land well, knew when to move. Then Clara found the tracks. 4 riders, she said, kneeling beside the hoofprints near the creek. Came in from the east, drove off maybe a dozen head. Abraham studied the tracks. One of the horses had a distinctive nick in its left front shoe. He'd seen that mark before. I know that horse, he said. Belongs to Jack Garrett. Sam's son. Clara stood, brushing dirt from her hands. Time to pay them a visit. The Garrett ranch sprawled across the valley like a small town. Barns, corrals, bunkhouses for the hired hands. Sam Garrett had built his empire through hard work and harder dealing, buying out anyone who got in his way. Abraham and Clara rode up to the main house just as Sam stepped onto his wide porch. He was a big man gone soft, with silver hair and cold eyes that missed nothing. Abraham, he said not warmly. Heard you were having some trouble. Your boy's been taking my cattle. Sam's expression didn't change. That's a serious accusation. Found tracks. Jack's horse has a nick in its left shoe. Lots of horses got nicked shoes. Clara urged her mount forward. We want our cattle back. Sam looked at her for the first time, his gaze calculating. You must be the hired help I heard about. Big woman like you could probably handle a man's work. I can handle more than that, Clara said evenly. Sam smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'm sure you can. But handling and proving are different things. You got any proof I took your cattle? We've got tracks, Abraham said. Tracks don't mean much in court. Bills of sale do though. Sam pulled a folded paper from his vest pocket. Got one right here. Signed by your brother 3 weeks before he died. Abraham snatched the paper and read it quickly. It looked legitimate. Thomas's signature, the right date, even the right number of cattle. But something was wrong. The ink was too fresh, the paper too clean. This is forged, Abraham said. You calling me a liar? I'm calling you a thief. Sam's smile vanished. You better be careful, boy. You're talking to a man with friends in high places. And you're talking to a man with nothing left to lose. The tension stretched tight as a wire. Clara eased her rifle from its scabbard, not pointing it at anyone but making her intentions clear. Sam noticed. You planning to shoot your way out of this? If necessary, Clara said. That would be a mistake. I've got 12 hands on this ranch, all good men with guns. Then you better hope they're better shots than they are rustlers. Abraham looked between them, seeing how quickly this could turn deadly. We'll be going now. But this isn't over. No, Sam agreed. It surely isn't. They rode home in tense silence. Abraham's mind raced, trying to figure out how to prove what he knew was true. Without solid evidence, it would be his word against Garrett's, and Garrett had money, influence, friends in the territorial government. We need help, Abraham said finally. Clara shook her head. No law in this. Garrett owns the sheriff, probably the judge too. Then what do? We fight. That night, they prepared for war. Clara cleaned and loaded every weapon in the house while Abraham checked the ammunition supply. They had 2 rifles, a shotgun, and Thomas's old Navy Colt. Not much against 12 armed men, but it would have to do. Ever kill a man? Clara asked as she worked. Abraham shook his head. Once. Didn't enjoy it but didn't lose sleep over it either. What happened? Clara was quiet for so long Abraham thought she wouldn't answer. Then she said, ranch foreman thought he could take liberties. Thought a woman alone couldn't defend herself. Where was this? Colorado. After my pa died. Clara finished loading the rifle and set it aside. Some men think they can take whatever they want. Sometimes you have to teach them different. Abraham watched her work, saw the steady competence in her movements. Clara had lived a hard life, harder than his own. She'd learned to fight because she'd had no choice. I'm sorry, he said. For what? For what you've had to endure. Clara looked at him, her blue eyes steady. Don't pity me, Abraham. I survived. That's what matters. The attack came just before dawn. Abraham woke to the sound of breaking glass. A lantern crashed through the front window, spreading fire across the wooden floor. He rolled out of bed as Clara appeared from the main room, rifle in hand. Back window, she said. 2 of them. Abraham grabbed the shotgun and crept toward the rear of the cabin. Through the glass, he could see shapes moving in the gray light. At least 3 men, maybe more. Callahan, a voice shouted from outside. Come out and we'll make this quick. Abraham recognized Jack Garrett's voice, younger and meaner than his father's. Clara appeared beside him. Kitchen windows broke too. They got us surrounded. How many? 6, maybe 8. Abraham felt sweat trickle down his back despite the morning chill. They were outnumbered and outgunned, trapped in a wooden cabin that would burn fast once the fire took hold. We surrender, they'll kill us anyway, Clara said, reading his thoughts. And if we fight? Same result, but at least we take some of them with us. Abraham looked at her, this woman who'd come into his life like a force of nature, who'd brought order to his chaos and purpose to his grief. In 3 months, she'd become more important to him than anyone except Thomas. I'm glad you stayed, he said. Clara smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. Me too. The first shots shattered the morning quiet. Bullets splintered the window frame where Abraham crouched, sending wood chips flying. He fired back with the shotgun, saw one of the attackers stumble. Clara's rifle cracked from the front room. A man screamed. That's 2, she called. More gunfire erupted from all sides. The cabin filled with smoke from the spreading fire and gunpowder. Abraham lost count of shots fired, focused only on loading and firing. A man appeared at the back door, kicking it open with his boot. Abraham swung the shotgun around and fired, catching the intruder center mass. The man flew backward off the porch. Abraham! Clara's voice, sharp with warning. He turned to see flames climbing the east wall. The fire was spreading faster than he'd expected. Soon the cabin would be an inferno. We have to get out, he called. Where? They got us covered. Abraham looked around desperately. The root cellar. They could reach it through the kitchen floor if they could get the trapdoor open. "This way," he said, grabbing Clara's arm. They crawled across the burning floor to the kitchen. Abraham found the hidden latch and yanked up the trapdoor. Cool air rushed out of the darkness below. "Go," he said. Clara hesitated. "What about you?" "I'll be right behind you." She dropped through the opening just as more bullets shattered the kitchen window. Abraham fired his last shot, then followed her down. The root cellar was cramped and dark, filled with the smell of stored vegetables and damp earth. Abraham pulled the trapdoor closed above them, plunging them into total darkness. "There's a tunnel," Clara whispered. "Your brother showed it to me when I first got here. Leads to the barn." Abraham felt around until his hands found hers. She led him through the narrow passage, both of them crawling on hands and knees through dirt and roots. Behind them, they could hear the cabin burning, collapsing. Shouts from the attackers as they realized their quarry had escaped. The tunnel ended at a wooden grate. Clara pushed it open, and they crawled out into the barn, gasping and covered in dirt. "Now what?" Abraham whispered. "Now we even the odds." Clara led him to a stall where she'd hidden extra weapons. A rifle she'd bought in town, boxes of ammunition, even a stick of dynamite she'd somehow acquired. "Where did you get all this?" "Been preparing since the first cattle went missing." Clara checked the rifle action. "Your brother taught me something before he died. Said the only way to deal with men like Garrett is to hit them where they're weakest." "Which is where?" Clara smiled grimly. "Their pride." They slipped out of the barn as the cabin burned behind them. Abraham could see the attackers silhouetted against the flames, celebrating what they thought was victory. Clara had positioned herself behind a water trough, rifle ready. Abraham took cover behind the chicken coop. Between them, they had clear shots at 4 of the remaining men. "Jack Garrett," Clara called out. "You burned down the wrong building." The men spun toward the sound of her voice. Abraham opened fire, dropping one immediately. Clara's rifle cracked, taking down another. The remaining men scrambled for cover, but they were exposed in the open yard with nowhere to hide. Abraham and Clara picked them off methodically, years of hunting experience serving them well. When the shooting stopped, 5 men lay dead in the yard. Jack Garrett was not among them. "Where is he?" Abraham asked, reloading. Clara pointed toward the treeline. "Ran when his men started falling." They waited until full daylight before venturing out to check the bodies. None of them recognized most of the dead men, hired guns, not local ranch hands. But one of them wore a deputy's badge. "Garrett's got the law in his pocket," Clara said, examining the badge. Abraham felt cold despite the heat from the still-burning cabin. "We can't stay here. They'll be back with more men, claim we murdered a deputy." Clara nodded. "We need to disappear for a while. Let things cool down." "Where can we go?" "I know a place. Up in the mountains, old mining camp. Abandoned, but the cabins are still sound." Abraham looked at the smoking remains of his home, everything Thomas had built reduced to ash and char. But somehow he felt lighter, freer. The old life was gone, burned away. What remained was the future, uncertain but full of possibility. What about the ranch? "Land'll still be here when we get back. Cattle too, if we can prove Garrett stole them." Abraham shouldered his pack, everything he owned now fitting in a single bag. Clara was already mounted, waiting for him with that steady patience he'd come to rely on. "Ready?" she asked. Abraham swung up onto his horse. "Lead the way." They rode east into the rising sun, leaving the valley and its troubles behind. The mountains loomed ahead, purple and mysterious in the morning light. As they climbed the winding trail, Clara began to sing, something low and mournful about lost love and new beginnings. Abraham had never heard her sing before, hadn't known she could. Her voice was rough but true, like everything else about her. It carried over the mountain air, mixing with the sound of hoofbeats and wind through pine trees. Abraham found himself humming along, though he didn't know the words. It didn't matter. For the first time in months, he felt like he was exactly where he belonged. The mining camp sat in a high valley, surrounded by peaks that scraped the sky. A dozen cabins clustered around what had once been the main shaft, now boarded up and forgotten. Clara led them to the largest cabin, its roof intact and windows unbroken. Inside, they found furniture covered with dust sheets, a stone fireplace, even a few canned goods left by the last occupants. "How did you know about this place?" Abraham asked as they settled in. "Spent a winter here once. When I was running from something that wasn't worth remembering." Abraham didn't ask what she'd been running from. Everyone had demons in their past. They spent 3 weeks in the mountains, living quietly, healing from the fight. Abraham's burns from the fire faded to pink scars. Clara's bruised ribs mended. They hunted deer and caught fish from the stream, lived like pioneers in a world that had forgotten they existed. It was peaceful, but it couldn't last. Eventually, they would have to go back and face whatever waited for them in the valley. The decision came when they saw smoke rising from the direction of town. Too much smoke for cooking fires, too black for brush burning. "Something's happening," Clara said, shading her eyes against the sun. Abraham nodded. "Time to go home." They packed quickly and rode hard down the mountain trail. By evening, they could smell the smoke heavy in the air, see an orange glow against the night sky. The town of Cedar Falls was burning. Not the whole town, but most of the main street. The saloon, the general store, the sheriff's office, all reduced to smoking ruins. People stood in clusters, watching the flames with shocked faces. Abraham and Clara rode up to the crowd, keeping their faces shadowed by hat brims. Abraham recognized Doc Morrison and flagged him over. "What happened here?" Abraham asked quietly. Doc looked around nervously before answering. "Range war. Garrett and his men hit the Hendersons' place 2 days ago. Killed the whole family. Then they came for town, said anyone who helped rustlers would get the same treatment." Abraham felt sick. The Hendersons had been good people, never hurt anyone. "Where's Sheriff Keller?" "Dead. Garrett shot him when he tried to arrest Jack for murder." Doc leaned closer. "Folks are saying you and that woman of yours killed 5 men, including a deputy. They attacked us first. Don't matter now. Garrett's got territorial authorities coming. He's claiming self-defense, says you're the ones been rustling cattle." Clara spoke for the first time. "What about the other ranchers? Anyone standing up to Garrett?" Doc shook his head. "Most have sold out or been run off. Ones left are too scared to fight." Abraham looked at the burning buildings, thought about the Henderson family, about Thomas's dream of building something lasting in this valley. "Where's Garrett now?" "Holed up at his ranch. Got maybe 20 men with him, all armed." Clara touched Abraham's arm. "We should go. Nothing we can do here." But Abraham was already shaking his head. "No. I'm tired of running. You can't fight 20 men. Not alone." Abraham urged his horse toward the edge of town, Clara following reluctantly. At the cemetery, he dismounted and walked to Thomas's grave, marked by a simple wooden cross. "I let them burn our home," Abraham said to the headstone. "Let them drive us off like we were nothing. But I won't let them turn this whole valley into their private kingdom." Clara stepped up beside him. "Your brother wouldn't want you to get yourself killed over pride. This isn't about pride. It's about what's right." Abraham mounted his horse again, his face set with determination Clara had never seen before. "So what's the plan?" she asked. Abraham smiled grimly. "Same thing David did to Goliath. Hit them where they least expected." The Garrett Ranch was a fortress, but even fortresses had weak points. Abraham and Clara spent 2 days scouting, watching the patterns of the guards, noting where the sentries were posted. On the 3rd night, when the moon was dark and clouds covered the stars, they made their move. Clara had fashioned torches from pine branches and rags soaked in kerosene. Abraham carried the stick of dynamite she'd been saving, along with a short fuse and matches. They approached from the north, where a creek provided cover almost to the ranch buildings. The guards were lazy, confident in their numbers, more concerned with staying warm than watching for trouble. Abraham reached the main barn without being detected. Inside, he could hear horses moving restlessly in their stalls. He set the dynamite charge against the support beam, lit the fuse, then slipped back outside. Clara was already at the bunkhouse, torches ready. When the dynamite exploded, sending the barn up in flames, she touched fire to the wooden walls. Chaos erupted across the ranch. Men stumbled out of burning buildings, shouting, confused, reaching for weapons. In the confusion, Abraham and Clara picked off targets with careful rifle shots, staying mobile, never firing twice from the same position. Sam Garrett appeared on his porch in nightclothes, a pistol in his hand. "Where are you, Callahan?" he bellowed. "Come out and face me like a man." Abraham stepped into the firelight, rifle ready. "I'm right here, Garrett." The older man raised his pistol, but Abraham's rifle cracked first. Sam Garrett spun and fell, clutching his shoulder. "That's for Thomas," Abraham said. "And for the Hendersons." Jack Garrett came running from the burning bunkhouse, pistol blazing. Abraham dove for cover as bullets whined overhead, but Clara's rifle spoke from the darkness. Jack stumbled, dropped his gun, fell to his knees. By dawn, the fight was over. Most of Garrett's hired guns had fled when it became clear they were outmatched. The ranch buildings still burned, sending pillars of black smoke into the morning sky. Abraham and Clara stood over the wounded Garretts, father and son both alive but broken. "It's finished," Abraham said. Sam Garrett glared up at him. "You think this ends it? I got friends in the territorial government. They'll hunt you down like animals." Clara spoke from behind Abraham. "No, they won't." She held up a leather portfolio she'd taken from the main house. "Found this in your office. Bills of sale for stolen cattle, correspondence with territorial officials, records of bribes paid." Garrett's face went pale. "You can't prove anything." "Don't have to prove it. Just have to show it to the right people." Clara smiled coldly. Amazing how quickly a man's friends disappear when the money stops flowing. Abraham looked around at the destruction, thought about the long road that had led them here. 3 months ago, he'd been a broken man hiding in a dirty cabin, drowning in grief and self-pity. Now he stood victorious over his enemies, with a woman beside him who'd proven stronger and more loyal than any partner he could have imagined. "What now?" he asked Clara. She considered the question seriously. "Now we go home and rebuild. Plant crops, raise cattle, make something good out of all this mess." Abraham nodded. "Sounds like a plan." As they rode back toward the valley, Abraham felt lighter than he had in years. The old life was truly dead now, burned away in the fires of the last few days. What rose from those ashes would be something new, something better. "Clara," he said as they topped the ridge overlooking his land. "Yes. Will you marry me? For real this time, not just for convenience." She was quiet for so long that Abraham began to worry he'd overstepped. Then she smiled, that rare, genuine expression he'd learned to treasure. "I thought you'd never ask." They were married a month later by the circuit preacher, in a simple ceremony under the cottonwood where Thomas was buried. The whole town came, what was left of it, along with ranchers from 3 counties who'd heard the story of how 2 people had taken down the Garrett Empire. Abraham wore his brother's watch and his father's Sunday suit. Clara wore a dress she'd bought special for the occasion, though she complained it made her feel like she was wearing a costume. As they spoke their vows, Abraham thought about the letter that had brought Clara into his life. Thomas had known what Abraham needed before Abraham knew it himself. His brother's final gift hadn't been money or land. It had been hope, wrapped in the form of a remarkable woman who'd taught him how to fight for what mattered. The preacher pronounced them husband and wife as the sun set behind the mountains. Abraham kissed Clara while the crowd cheered, tasting the salt of her tears and his own. Later, as the guests departed and the stars came out, Abraham and Clara sat on the porch of their new cabin, built with help from neighbors who'd found their courage again after the Garrett's fall. "Any regrets?" Abraham asked, taking Clara's calloused hand in his. She squeezed his fingers. "Only that it took us so long to get here." Abraham smiled, thinking about the journey they'd traveled together, from strangers bound by necessity to partners bound by choice. It hadn't been easy, but the best things never were. In the distance, a coyote howled at the moon. Clara hummed her song, the one about lost love and new beginnings. Abraham listened, knowing that whatever challenges tomorrow brought, they would face them together. The Promise Keeper had found her home at last.